Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
What are your thoughts on Billie Eilish saying, "No one is illegal on stolen land," in reference to ICE and US immigration policy? It's not a new slogan. Yeah, if you haven't heard this before, I mean like 15 plus years ago, you're really not paying attention. 15 plus. Lol, try 60 plus. This was first said at an awards show in the 60s, that's 1960. I think she's trying to shift the focus from bureaucracy to humanity. For many, the concept of a person being illegal feels inherently wrong, especially in a country with such a complex history of immigration and land acquisition. It's less of a legal policy suggestion and more of a moral statement about how we view our fellow human beings as they move across borders. Correct, it's a common sentiment that you'll see on bumper stickers and the like. It would be like if I shot my neighbor and his wife and kids to death and lived in their house for free, then start shooting at everyone who comes up to the "for sale" sign I put up. You just pretty much explained the Hawaii acquisition that nobody wants to admit was imperialism in the 1950s. Right after WW2, when our glorious righteous army stopped tyranny. This isn't a question, this is karma farming. You know damn well the typical Reddit responses you're going to get. It's sad how the mods have let this sub fall. I'm going to post, "What are your thoughts on giving me upvotes?" Next. Yeah, it's getting annoying how many popular, like botted, posts are just, "Current event is happening, what are your thoughts?" Completely defeated the purpose of the sub. Hey Reddit, what are your thoughts on this popular Reddit opinion? Quote. Hasn't ICE been trying to deport Native Americans? How does that work? Native American tribes from across the country have reported that some of the tribal members have been detained by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. The Indian Citizenship Act in 1924 granted citizenship to all Native Americans born in the United States. The Oglala Sioux tribe, which is headquartered in Pine Ridge, South Dakota, said 4 tribal members were detained Friday in Minneapolis, according to a statement. The day before, a 20-year-old Red Lake Nation descendant said he was struck on his face and neck by ICE agents even though he said he told them he was an American citizen. In Iowa, an Arizona tribal member was almost deported after she was turned over to an ICE detainer by mistake in November. The Navajo Nation said dozens of Native Americans had been questioned or detained, including one woman who said ICE agents thought her federal ID was fake. https://www.sdnewswatch.org/fact-brief-ice-native-americans-detained-minneapolis/. The fact that we needed a citizenship act for the original people who were already born and raised here is bonkers. Racism is how it works. Through racism all things are possible. I am a citizen of a Native American nation, as well as a citizen of the United States. I do not speak for all Native Americans, this is just my personal opinion. I really don't like it when non-native people bring us into the immigration debate. To be frank, the vast majority of non-native people really don't understand the complexity of the relationship between Native Americans and the United States of America. For example, Native American veterans and active military have a place of honor at powwows. This is our land and we will always defend our land. Using the genocide of my people as a basis for deciding the immigration policies of the nation which conquered our nations, but is also the homeland for our peoples, doesn't really make sense to me. As a counterpoint, and also from the viewpoint of someone with mixed heritage, with 80% being native to the Americas, specifically southwest area of the US. Apache, while I understand your opinion, I respectfully disagree. Native Americans were forced to give up most of their land and were brutalized during the process, they had no choice. There is a concerted effort to erase this history by the same people trying to kick others out of the country, many of whom share indigenous blood. You don't have to be a registered member of a Native American tribe here in the US to still have a lot of native indigenous blood in you, and those are the targets of ICE. I also have many honored family who were in WW2, Vietnam and the Korean Wars, but that doesn't have any relevance to the situation at hand, except to maybe recognize that it is even more important that we fight against such things happening again the way they transpired in WW2. Yeah, the stolen land usually refers to the hundreds of treaties the US broke on purpose to commit genocide and the Indian schools that were set up to erase history. People wonder why the American buffalo was hunted to extinction. It was a government order to starve the native populations and kill their food source. It is crazy how many people just simply don't know about these things. They purposely don't teach this in curriculum. All land is stolen. Human history is basically a big tree of land theft. We currently live in a society which feels you shouldn't do that, which I agree with, and some people want to apply that moral value retroactively, which I don't agree with. The two issues are unrelated, and to pretend that they are is to massively oversimplify both. I don't think that the message should be understood so literally. The concept is that it is weird to arbitrarily decide who gets to stay and who doesn't if you declare your identity as immigrant proudly. You can't be proud of your European heritage and at the same time complain other people aren't Americans and not welcome. It isn't weird. Every country on Earth has immigration laws and decides who can come in and who can stay. All human constructs are to an extent arbitrary, but immigration laws serve a purpose, as do governments and national boundaries enforced by those governments. You can say that immigration laws are being applied unjustly, but it's entirely another thing to say we shouldn't have any immigration laws at all and people should just come and go as they please. I appreciate what she's trying to say in a single soundbite, and it worked in many ways. People are talking about it. But it is reductive, all soundbites are, because when you go down that road, the rhetoric cancels itself out. All of human history has been about territorialism. Yes, even indigenous populations competed over land and resources and still do. But in this American context of ICE and extrajudicial actions, I appreciate that she's trying to reframe the public discourse in the context of implied imperialism. I agree with the sentiment, no one is illegal on stolen land, but I also understand that is not a comprehensive immigration policy. Yeah, anyone who is like, but nuance, is being intentionally pedantic imho. No shit, but it's a slogan, a pretty elegant one, at that, not a fucking thesis. All land is stolen land, just depends how far back you want to go. But, as you say, it's a nice thing to say and gets people talking. We can't pretend First Nations weren't killing each other and stealing land all the time between each other, committing genocide and overall being nasty humans, just like any other civilization before or after. Can we just please focus on building a good future instead of this stupid pissing contest about whose ancestors deserves it more? It's fucking idiotic. Greater than it's a nice thing to say and gets people talking. It's only nice because she is on our side. Otherwise, Redditors would have torn her statement apart. Disagree. No country can have open borders, and that includes ours. But everyone deserves due process under the law and the Constitution, including those who are undocumented. And ICE is breaking the law and ignoring the Constitution. I agree with her, but also agree with your comment. I think you might agree with her too if you understood the phrase isn't a call for open borders. It's a criticism of the US dehumanizing immigrants for coming here illegally despite our ancestors having done the same, and worse. It's not a policy proposal. Yeah, but if a slogan requires a ton of explanation, it's bad at its job, isn't it? It sounds like a call for open borders, because it's based on a premise that concludes that the US doesn't have a right to close its borders. If that's not the thing she wanted to say, she shouldn't have said it. As you, boom_shaka_larka pointed out, Bad Bunny's statement is better. We're all immigrants, is better. Use a slogan that means the thing you want to say. Yeah, Bad Bunny's statement kind of focused on that sentiment more. We're not aliens, we're human. I don't agree with her statement. I hear it all the time. It doesn't help with what's going on now. Saying no one is illegal on stolen land means exactly that. Undocumented aren't illegal and should be allowed to stay. But we live in modern times and they're not here legally. And the government can take steps for deportation, within the confines of the laws and the Constitution. But ICE is breaking the law and acting illegally. I do think there needs to be a one-time amnesty for those who have lived here since they were very young and don't speak the language plus have no idea of life in their birth countries. This is the type of hollow rhetoric that Ricky Gervais was talking about back in 2020 when he said celebrities at award shows lack the credibility to moralize about social or political issues. Indeed. Looking back at history, it is also a hollow statement. Virtually the entire Earth has been fought over and changed hands multiple times over the 6,000 years of recorded human history and the hundreds of thousands of years prior. A good example is Tunisia, taken by the Phoenicians, who split off and then became Carthage, then taken by the Romans, then taken by the Vandals, then taken by the Byzantines, then taken by the Arabs, then by the Turks, then by the French, then by the Germans, then by the Allies. Even if one looks at all of Europe, modern humans took it from the Neanderthals. The intent is appreciated, but the statement itself is just plain dumb. Yeah, I wouldn't use this as a slogan if you're trying to make immigrants' lives better. Most people support pathways to becoming citizens, very few support open borders. It hurts progressives far more than it helps them. I 100% support pathways to citizenship and I support stopping people from coming in illegally. It's counterproductive to conflate DHS enforcement policy with US immigration policy in general. Most Americans seem to agree that there should be laws regarding immigration and that those laws should be enforced. In general, we should all want to live in a society where the laws are enforced in a consistent and even-handed way. Unfortunately, that is often not the society we live in and we should constantly advocate for more consistent and fair enforcement of laws. Critics of DHS enforcement policies should stick to the facts. They are routinely overstepping their legal authority, employing unjustified uses of force, and violating the First, Fourth, and 13th Amendment rights of U.S. residents including citizens, but let's not lose sight of the fact that resident aliens have rights as well. Anyone who values the founding principles of the USA stated in the Declaration of Independence and U.S. Constitution should be able to agree that this is not how law enforcement should behave regardless of their opinion on specific U.S. immigration laws. Criticism of U.S. immigration laws is also completely legitimate speech, but this criticism should be aimed at Congress as they are the ones responsible for revising those laws. This issue should be addressed completely separately from the issue of rights violations and selective enforcement by DHS. Frankly, there's a lot of people who will never sign on for reining in ICE if the campaign to do so also entails allowing unrestricted immigration. Even though I tend to think immigration should be less restrictive rather than more, I think "no one is illegal on stolen land" is a bad talking point. It won't convince anyone who doesn't already agree, and it feels kind of scummy to me for white people to use the Native American genocide to push their own political agenda. The main problem with using "stolen land" language is that it implies there are indeed illegal people living here, anyone who's non-Native American. It's guilt-inducing language that has no practical point. The kind of thing that MAGA has a field day with as woke. Quote, "Exactly, you aren't winning any hearts and minds by just attacking Americans in general." It also assumes that Native Americans never stole land. Came here to say exactly this. People with reach, influence shouldn't run with this line because they'll start alienating people who aren't far left, when we will need everyone to stand together if we want change. ICE needs to stop breaking the law is a very different battle cry than "you can't have immigration restrictions in the US." Most relate to the former, the latter is counterproductive. No, continue with the purity tests, it's been working out so well for them.